everybody, it's Mary Grace Wallace, one of the genealogists with Family Tree Nuts, and today I am in Missoula, Montana. I'm actually at Fort Missoula, and I'm actually at the museum sort of end of things, and I'm still in the fort. So way back behind me is the newer end of the fort, and by newer I mean turn of the century, 1900s. That is the post headquarters. They've moved a lot of buildings from around Montana and around surrounding areas into this museum. They did that around 2000, 2008. The city came together and really made this a really interesting place. I'm gonna tell you a little bit of the history of the place, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm standing by. And so this behind me is Hell's Gate Chapel. And that was also brought here. It was a trading post that was established in 1860 along Mullen Road in St. Michael's. And that was actually brought to the museum in 1981, which is pretty cool. It's something that you get to see if you come back into the fort. There's the trolley barn behind me, that white area. Fort Missoula was established by the U.S. Army in 1877. The land is now owned by the city. It was originally established to protect the settlers from Indian threats such as the Nez Perce. The 7th Infantry was originally assigned here, and this post was built to halt the advancement of a group of non-treating Nez Perce, mainly led by Chief Joseph and Chief Looking Glass. And I'm sure most of us have heard about Chief Joseph. The fort actually changed up a lot, and it's pretty interesting. The schoolhouse was moved here. We've done some hopscotch. The fort was remodeled later in the 1920s, and it was used for military training. And in 1941, the fort was turned over to the Department of Immigration Naturalization, and it was actually used as an internment camp. So there was non-military Italian men who were brought here, and then after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, there were Japanese Americans that were also brought and kept here. So it has a little bit of a dark history. It was also used as a military prison. By 2001, it was no longer being used. Then the city was able to take it over. Then plans were made to turn this into a park, and it's turned out absolutely beautiful. I also want to show you some non-commissioned quarters. These are original. Non-commissioned staff lived here. This is the original building, built in 1878 to house ordnance and commissary sergeants and their families. Restoration by Western Montana Ghost Town Preservation Society. Pretty awesome. Then there's also a carriage house, original carriage house to the fort as well. So pretty amazing stuff. Remember, Family Tree Nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree. Hey, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm good, Mary Grace. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you guys enjoyed that video on Fort Missoula. That was a lot of fun to do. Fort Missoula is an amazing place. So I'm back.
Here we are. We're back. Let's take two.
Take two. That's right. Hey, that's okay. Sorry about that, everybody. I mean,
it's definitely live. So that's the way it works around when you do it live. All kinds of excitement.
Yeah, right. This is what happens. So, yeah, so we're covering Montana tonight, and I've done several videos in Montana. It happens to be one of my favorite states. So I'm kind of excited to bring Montana. I'm waiting. I want to see if there's any questions. I want to say hi to Dawn and hi to Lori, and yeah, I'm excited to do Montana tonight. It's the 41st state in the Union, and became a state November 8th of 1889, and it has no official nickname, even though tonight we called it Big Sky Country. It actually has a few nicknames. Do you know what those nicknames are, Sue?
I have only Big Sky Country. I don't know what Montana actually means or what it stands for. So no, the short answer would be no.
Okay. So, okay. So so one of the nicknames you hit, yeah, Big Sky Country. Another nickname, the Treasure State. That's because of all the mining of copper, actually copper, the
Oh,
mining
wow.
state. So the Treasure State, the Land of the Shining Mountains. Have you heard that one?
And I believe I have heard that one. Yes. Yes.
And actually, this one is my favorite, being that I mean I live in Washington, but Montana is one of my favorite places. The last best state.
The last best state. Now we know it wasn't the last state that was admitted to the Union, so the last best state. There's a story there.
Probably, well, very well could be. I don't know who came up with that one. It might have, I mean, I would even claim that if I came up with that, the last best state, because I believe I've been to so many states and Montana is one of the best.
That's pretty awesome.
If anybody has an argument for me on if that's the last best state, I'd sure love to hear it.
Absolutely. Yeah, let us know if you've been to Montana also, and what you think of the state. Tell us
You haven't, so you haven't
yeah.
been out this way, right? Montana included.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
So so when we talk tonight, Montana is bordered by Idaho and South Dakota and North Dakota, Wyoming, and then of course in the north, Canada. But one thing that, as we've been doing, Washington, Oregon, California, and Idaho, that you'll hear with Montana is a lot of the same players. The Lewis and Clark Trail. There were 16 states involved with the Lewis and Clark Trail, and Montana was one of them. Fur trade again. So that's kind of a reoccurring theme. Some of the same native tribes. Chief Joseph, one of our favorite Nez Perce natives, he was also in Montana. So you hear a lot of the same reoccurring themes in these Pacific Northwest states. And Montana was also a part of the Oregon Territory and the Oregon Treaty. So that's a big area to cover, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. So if you can believe that. Always the term.
Crazy.
Okay, so
yeah.
I was just talking about where Montana comes from. The word Montana comes from the word montanu, which means, it's a Latin word, which means mountainous. And there was actually some conversation over it. There was some conflict over whether that should actually be the name. And the reason being that Montana isn't all full of mountains. There's the Badlands, there's the plains on the eastern side, and some politicians thought that the name should come from a native word, maybe even from some of the indigenous people there. And that ended up not happening. It ended up sticking with Montana. But, and I think that was became the Montana Territory. And that happened with the Oregon Treaty, which was Montana was part of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. That's how it first started.
Right. Okay. Right. And when did it get the name Montana? At the time that it became a state, or it became a territory, Montana first?
It was the Montana Territory in I think it's 1863. It was added to a bill in the House. Okay. 1863. Yeah. Which it became a state in 1889, so it was not Montana Territory for too long.
Not too long at all.
And it was, and Montana is much like Washington, half mountains on the western side, and then half the eastern side is plains and desert and dry and very, very cold in the winter, much like here. Which was sort of interesting because in the 1850s, when the settlers were moving here, imagine which part of the state are you going to choose, because Montana is full of agriculture and ranching, and so the mountainous, more lush side is full of ranchers, and then and also on the eastern side, full of ranchers. So it's a great place to go visit.
Yeah, I think given in the summer, because I'm not a winter person.
Oh, I have gone in both the summer and in the winter, and it does get quite a bit of snow. In fact,
I'm sure.
one of this is just a side story. One of the horses that I own comes from very, very far eastern side, almost into the Dakotas. In fact, like 30 minutes on the eastern side. And I was talking to the ranch that she came from, and they were like -35 this winter. And I was
Wow.
a little
Wow.
too chilly for me. Too chilly.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. Yeah. Don asked how the cattle industry does in Montana, and it's actually one of their top industries. Agriculture and ranching is two of their top industries, and the third is actually cereal grains, top three.
Oh.
Yeah, cereal grains.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the land in Montana East. So there's the Continental Divide. So it's the land in the Montana East. I'm sorry. That part of Montana was actually a part of the Louisiana Purchase. And on the west was a part of the Oregon Treaty.
Okay. So
my
half
brain.
Part of, okay.
This is how my brain works. Just how I'm remembering.
That's okay. There's a lot of Montana and its history, so you know, remembering it all, it's quite challenging.
It is very challenging. And so every time I've gone over to Montana, there's so many videos I could do. And actually we do have quite a few videos on Montana if you want to check them out on our YouTube. Not all of them are wonderful. I'm getting better, I will say, but there's a lot of history over there, and there's so much that we could cover. When I was talking with you earlier, like I said, we could do probably like 3+ weeks just on Montana history, but yeah, it might get boring too. So, but one of the videos I wanted to show you is one of the first settlements that happened in Montana, and it was St. Mary's in 1841. And I did a really neat video there. It's in the Bitterroot Valley, and it's near present day today, which is Stevensville, and it's on Father Rivali. And maybe some of you have seen the video. It was really neat to be there and to do that video. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that video right now. And if Jordan would cue that video for us, I'd sure appreciate it. Jordan. Hi, it's Mary Grace Wallace with Family Tree Nuts. I am one of the genealogists out and about today. I am in Montana again. I'm in a beautiful graveyard in a place called St. Mary's Mission. It's in Stevensville, Montana. I'm in the shadows of the St. Mary's Mountains, just east of the Bitterroot River, and I'm standing at the gravesite of Antonio Rivali. So Father Rivali, his gravesite right behind me, this monument here. He was born June 16th, 1812 in Ferrara, Italy. He actually died here October 2nd, 1884. This was St. Mary's, now called Stevensville, Montana. And in 1833 in Italy, he entered the Society of Jesus and became a Jesuit priest, and he was in Notre Dame for quite a while. And out here in the wilds of Montana, there was a Pierre Jean de Smet working out here in a mission, and our Father Rivali responded to an American mission request in 1843 from Jean Pierre, August 5th, 1844, our father Rivali arrived in Fort Vancouver, where he studied the English language and he practiced medicine because that was something that he was good at. So he took care of the sick while he was in Fort Vancouver, and later he was transferred to work in Ponderay at the St. Ignatius Mission, and after some time he was then transferred up to the Flathead River and the Flathead Mission of the Bitterroot St. Mary's, where I am now in western Montana. This settlement here, now known as Stevensville, this is where he served as a priest, as a doctor, as a druggist, as an architect, as a machinist for 40 years. He became a friend to the Indians. This is where he really found himself. This is where everybody loved him. And this place is amazing. He built the first grist mill here, which he gave flour to the Indians weekly. From a discarded wagon wheel, he built a sawmill, and he provided this settlement with lumber. I mean, things that only an architect, a machinist, and somebody with a lot of dedication and a lot of knowledge could do. And he really gave himself to this mission. He developed a garden where he grew herbs so that he could make medicine for the needy and for the sick. He developed in his cabin the very first drive-through pharmacy window. Believe it or not, yes. He wore his robe, wore his boots, rode an Indian pony around, filled his saddlebags full of medicine, full of surgical and medical equipment, and through the winter snow, through the summer heat, he delivered medical supplies and took care of the needy. He never accepted any kind of fees for his services. He would accept gifts for St. Mary's Mission, and that's all. When a stroke partially paralyzed him, he had a cot built for the wagon, and the wagon would be driven, and he would still deliver medicine, he would still deliver medical supplies, and he would still take care of the needy, and he still continued his mission until he became completely bedridden. Things that are named after him and things that I would just like to tell you. Rivali County, where I'm at right now, that is named after him. And a World War I Liberty ship is also named after him. And also in 2005, he was named in the Gallery of Outstanding Montanans, which I think is well deserved. I'm here at his gravesite. This is his gravestone, Anthony Rivali, 1812 to 1884, St. Mary's Mission. And then this big monument that was raised for him by the state of Montana, Montana's tribute to Father Anthony Rivali. And it says, Montana's tribute to Father Anthony Rivali, who spent 40 years in this far west for the good of souls and suffering mankind as a zealous missionary and charitable physician, died October 2nd, 1884. Rest in peace, Father Rivali. And there's also behind me a cross raised that says Native People's Graves. There's also a monument behind me listed with many Native names who gave their lives to hunting and various other things in the Bitterroot Valley, which is behind me. There's another monument in wood that says, in prayerful remembrance of the brave heart sleeping in the shadow of St. Mary's Mountain, which is also behind me. Again, I'm at St. Mary's Mission in Stevensville, Montana. What an amazing place, and I'm happy to bring this to you. And remember, family tree nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
Like what you see? Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the little bell so you get notifications as to when we post new videos. And you can find out more about us and contact us at familytreenuts.org.
Wow, I love that video. I remember watching that when it was first released and there was just so much information. What an incredible man. I mean, the epitome of a missionary and priest, and amazing things that he did. You know, he wasn't just a priest. He didn't just meet their spiritual needs. I mean, he met every need, every single need that they had. Job well done. I love that video.
I actually really like that video too. That was so much fun to do, and it's such a beautiful valley in there. Oh, I did. I really enjoyed that. And it was a great tribute to a great man. Yeah. Father Rivali, I really enjoy that video. I actually go back and watch that video without sounding like I enjoy watching myself. That's not it at all, but the information's good, and he's a neat guy, and he did so much. And the fact that it's published everywhere that he was a friend to the natives and a friend to the poor, and it'd be really cool to have known him. And it's such a big thing that St. Mary's was one of the first permanent settlements there, and he was a big part of that. So I mean, that's really neat. So
I think that's one of the things that I love about the way that the videos get done, and all over the country. Everybody in that area probably, I know they've heard of him, but here in Kentucky, I had never really heard of him. And to be able to get that information about such an incredible man, the history in Montana, and not have to go there, but now really wanting to go there, is I think is why I think the videos are so exciting too.
Yes. One of my favorite things is to bring these characters to life, right? And and I think that's important, because they do get forgotten. I haven't read about him in a history book, and maybe things that he did are not super significant to the history of our country, but they are very significant to the history of the Bitterroot Valley. So I think it's important.
Right.
Yeah.
He deserves to be remembered, absolutely, and honored in that way. I mean, they remembered him enough in World War I to name a ship after him. That's impressive.
Right.
Very impressive.
And Miss Sue, if you want to skip ahead to World War I.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a nice segue, huh?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, there's a lot that happened in between, but
yes,
we could go to World War I. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could come back to that. There. Well, actually, we could wait a minute. We'll come back to World War I. Montana has some things with World War I and World War II that we can get to. They have some.
Let's kind of head chronologically then. So we'll come
okay,
back to
that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Where are we at? Let's see. Father Rivali was about 1841-ish. So we'll just go like about, let's see. We talked about some cattle ranching. 1850, the settlers are starting to come into Montana, and
I know they had like a pretty good little gold rush period, right in that time frame, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe.
They did. What's interesting
gold
is that
copper.
Copper was a big one. A lot of copper mines, which created copper and silver, which created a lot of ghost towns in Montana. There is a ton of ghost towns in Montana in the hills, and some of them are well preserved. Some have even been preserved by historical societies. They've been rebuilt, and so you can travel in and you can visit them and go out. They just take a discovery pass, of course, and you're in and you're out. And they've some pre-COVID. So I've been there during COVID, and I've been there pre-COVID. So some of them you can actually camp in and hike into. There's a lot of big game. There are ghost towns that haven't been preserved, small little tiny cemeteries with just actual cross markers.
Oh, wow.
No names.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that are miners that have died. And so there'll be like a historical sign that just says, we know that these were miners that died. We just don't really know who.
Who they were.
Which is
It tells the
interesting.
story,
Yeah.
though. It tells the story of the way that I guess they popped up because of a little bit of the mining event, and then when it, I guess, kind of faded out, so did the towns.
Right. And then the towns were gone.
Right.
And some of them
Right.
had gotten so big, they would have, women would move in with children. And so they would be, they would split the tavern with half a school, half a tavern. There was all kinds of setups that were very unusual, not what you would consider kosher for today, but they would make it happen.
It worked
right?
for them. That they necessity, as they say, is the mother of invention. So they needed to have the schools, and apparently they
Right.
needed the taverns as well.
Right.
Right.
A little part of the wild west.
Right. Right.
A little uncanny,
Awesome.
so to speak.
Yeah.
A little uncanny, but it worked for everybody, I would say. So yeah. There were several capitals in Montana, and it finally there was Virginia City, and then it finally became Helena. Finally became the capital in 1875. Sorry, guys, I'm drinking some coffee. It's been a long week,
and it's just Wednesday.
I know. My goodness, it's only Wednesday. But you know,
that's all right.
So along with mining, which they still do some mining, only it's oil today.
Oil. Okay.
Yeah.
It is continuing.
I didn't hear you, Sue. I'm sorry. You have to repeat that.
Oh, that's you've got coffee brain. It's amazing. I just wondered how much it produced. I just think that's intriguing.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how much is produced. I just know that they are doing some oil mining in Montana these days. And I don't know how much of it is talked about. I do know that I've gone past a lot of oil derricks, and they are drilling away.
Okay, that's interesting. Apparently, it's very rich in along there with all kinds of minerals, oils and minerals.
Right. I would agree. It is the treasure state.
Appropriately, it's an appropriate moniker for it then.
That's right. So we talked a little bit about cattle ranching, and cattle ranching is still very, very big in Montana today. And a lot of the cattle came in during when the Oregon Trail, when immigrants were coming through on the Oregon Trail. And the Texas Longhorn was actually introduced in 1866. Sort of an interesting, I don't know, made its way out with a rancher, and they're fairly popular there in Montana. The Texas Longhorn. Have you seen them? Do you guys have the Texas Longhorns out there?
Not a lot. Kind of mostly Angus and beef cattle, but not really Longhorn. I mean, but we do have some farms that have alpacas and camels. So maybe I just haven't seen the Longhorns out here. But
camels?
Yes, Kentucky has some camels. Actually, in Clark County, outside of Winchester, where I live, it's a shocking, surprising sight. There are camels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so if we continue chronologically, then of course the Pacific Northern Railroad makes its way out west. And that has a huge impact on all of the Pacific Northwest states. And that has a big impact from east to west, actually, on a lot of things. That has an impact
Right.
on relationships as far as land goes with the Native Americans. That has a impact on agriculture. That has an impact on immigrants. That has an impact on how fast things are growing. And Montana is still not a very populated state to this day. Did you know
Right.
that they're like one of the least populated states per capita?
I did
I think
know
they
that.
ranked
There's
number
not
8.
like, wow, yeah. I knew that there weren't as many settled populations out there for as large of a state as it is. Right.
Right. And so like Oregon did the Homestead Act, where they would give away land if you would make it out this way. If you would come out and move out, they would give away land. Montana did the same thing in 1862. It was 160 acres, only nobody wanted it.
And
160
why was that?
acres at
160
um
acres, you would think that families would like, that would be, they'd be jumping on that, just like they did
right.
Oregon.
But at the
Yeah,
time, it wasn't sustainable for families 160 acres if it was in the desert side. What were you going
I
to do
guess
with it?
locale had everything right. Location, location,
Right.
location, even today, right?
Right. That was if it was in the arid territories, 160 acres wasn't really sufficient to um, take care of a family. And so I think that was the first Homestead Act, and I think they realized, that's not a big draw um, for bringing families out. I don't know. I would take 160 acres. If 160 acres was offered today, I'd be out there in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
If they offered me 5 acres, I'd be out there. What am I saying?
Well,
How about you?
I would imagine settling into Montana today on 5 acres or 160 acres would have been quite different than in the 1860s, and much more isolated, much more difficult to get what you need for your family to sustain it.
Right, right. But eventually people did take them up on it. And there was actually one of the first people was a female. Um, and her name was Morgan Evans. And she took him up on it. She made a claim near Warm Springs, and she's documented as one of the first women that made a claim, and just one of the first claimants. Period.
Wow.
Smart.
So by
Yeah,
herself, as a single female, she made her claim on her own.
she made a
Modern
claim.
day
Yep.
feminist there. I
Yep.
love that. That's
There
awesome.
were actually a lot of feminists in Montana, and I've gone out a few times and have filmed a few of them. Um, just for the sake of doing it, they need some notoriety. But
Absolutely.
so there was so after Montana realizing that most people weren't going to come take 160 acres of this arid desertish land, in 1877 they decided to open it up to 640 acres and see if that would
Wow.
draw people out. And
That's quite a substantial amount increase there.
right, yeah, yes. So 640 acres. However, there was a little bit of a cost to it, 25 cents an acre, and people came out. People came by train.
Wow.
Trains were opened up, so people came out. People came by trains, and that is how a lot of these families started their ranches in Montana. A lot of land. 640 acres is a lot.
That's that's you could have a ranch definitely with that, and raise your family and have the necessary means to be able to support that.
Now, combine that with the Texas Longhorn on arid land. We've got a good combination. Yeah.
No.
It works out. Yeah. So I want to bring it. So we talked about Morgan Evans. She claimed her 150 or her 160 acres, and we talked about having these ladies that stepped forward. And you brought up the First World War, and so I want to talk a little bit about Jeanette Rankin. What do you know about Jeanette Rankin?
I believe she was maybe the first female in government in Montana. I know you've done a video. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I know that she's kind of a trailblazer as far as that's concerned.
Yes, she was. And more notable in the things that she was trailblazing for is maybe Susan B. Anthony. But Jeanette Rankin actually brought Montana politics kind of to the front line when she voted no to war in the First World War, and she actually voted no a second time on the Second World War. But I'm going to bring you one more video, my Jeanette Rankin video, and Jeanette Rankin, she really stepped out in sometimes and stood by her word when she was going against the flow a lot. So I'm going to have Jordan bring you Jeanette Rankin real quick, and we're going to talk about her. Hi everybody, it's Mary Grace Wallace, one of the genealogists with Family Tree Nuts. I'm here in the city of Missoula, Montana, and I am at the cemetery in the city of Missoula, in the Missoula Valley, and I am standing in front of the gravesite of Jeanette P. Rankin. She was the first woman to get elected into the House of Representatives, and this is kind of important to me because she was also the woman who started the legislation for the 19th Amendment. And if you know, that's super important to us as women and to us just as people, as humans, because that is the women's right to vote across the nation, no matter what. And so I'm here to pay my respects to her. Here's her gravesite right behind me. Jeanette Rankin, she was super progressive during the suffrage era. She introduced the 19th Amendment, giving women the unrestricted right to vote nationwide. Can you imagine? This took decades. This took protests. This was a big fight. Women really had to fight for this right. And when Jeanette Rankin was voted in to the U.S. House of Representatives, when this was going on, this was during a really difficult time for women, and Jeanette Rankin, she really pushed this out. Maybe you thought all the credit went to Susan B. Anthony, and maybe that was a more popular name in history, and Susan B. Anthony, she sure took a big role in this, and there was many, many women that fought before Jeanette Rankin got into the House of Reps, and so credit goes to all of those people as well. And there were so many women who didn't live to see this happen, right? So the 19th Amendment went into pass June 1919, and it was ratified in 1920. And Jeanette Rankin was part of what actually pushed that through. So a little bit about Jeanette Rankin and her history. So she was born June 11, 1880. She died May 18, 1973. She actually died in California. She was the first woman to hold federal office in the U.S. She was elected to the U.S. House of Reps as a rep from Montana in 1916 and again in 1940. Coincidentally, each of her terms coincided with each of the world wars, World War I and World War II. She's also known not just as a women's rights activist, but she voted no to both declarations of war, the first war going to be with Germany and the second after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Her second vote of no, she was the only constituent to vote no. And everybody was angry with her for that, including the entire state of Montana and her brother Wellington. He had funded most of her political career, and that vote of no pretty much ended her political career as far as the House of Representatives go. But Jeanette Rankin, she was a pacifist her entire life. She studied under Gandhi, and she stood by her vote. She felt that war was not a way to fight back, and not a way to fight at all. And she's very proud of that stance. Anyway, I wanted to bring you Jeanette Rankin. She's buried here in Missoula, Montana. Her father and her mother are buried along here beside her. John and Olive Wellington and Mary Grace Edna Wellington was her brother, and Mary was her sister. Grace was her sister, and Edna was also her sister. And she's buried here with her family, and Wellington, her brother, is actually right behind her. And just remember, family tree nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
Like what you see? Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the little bell so you get notifications as to when we post new videos. And you can find out more about us and contact us at familytreenuts.org.
Jeanette Rankin.
What an amazing life. Wow, what an amazing life. One of the things that struck me on that is you said her first term in the House of Representatives was 1916, even before women could vote. And here she is helping to determine law, and she couldn't even go to the polls to cast her vote. I just think that's powerful.
Isn't that something? What an amazing life she led. And I think it's interesting that her brother Wellington, he funded most of her political career, and then was so angry that she voted no at both wars, and yet he had to stand by what she had voted, she voted no, right? But those votes did end her political career, and Montana was very angry, the entire state, and it actually was a catalyst for men to go sign up for the draft. The fact that she voted no.
Oh wow!
They wanted to take a stand.
Right. I mean, it's impressive that she had such strong conviction that she, despite popularity, despite everything else, and as you say, ending her career, she still stood by that. Conviction is not something that we see a lot of maybe nowadays.
Right.
So it's impressive, no matter what. If you strongly believe in your cause, to be able to cast that strong and that type of a vote that would have gone in 1941 to everybody. I mean, the whole world, the whole country would have understood what she cast her vote for. Yeah, that was no longer like backwoods, big sky country. That all of a sudden was big stage country to where everybody saw. And so
I totally agree. And I have a few people asking about the Battle of Little Bighorn or Custer. That's a big thing.
We did. That's a big thing, and we didn't just skip over it, because how do you just put that in quickly and then move on? Because that's absolutely if you ask people about Montana, that would be the one thing I believe that they would be able to recite you about.
Right. So. And Sue, you and I talked a little bit before, Native American culture and history is just really near and dear to my heart. And so it's something that I told you, I know the story, and we could certainly tell it. And so it's something that I have not actually gone. I did go to Custer State Park which is a little bit different in Montana. I did not do a video there. I would like to. And so I fully intend, I'll be back in Montana, and I fully intend to do a video there when I know I can do it justice. And yeah.
Right. And I believe there will be several videos that you can take out of that. So many stories.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I look
So
forward to those.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, maybe you should come out and do the video.
Or maybe I should come out and we could do it together.
That'd be a good idea. Maybe we could get Amanda and Russ, and we should, let's have to challenge everybody to come out and see me, and we can meet in Montana. It's a great place to meet.
I like that. It's a plan. Yeah. Okay.
There's plenty of room out there. There's so much we could do. I keep going out there and covering all these things, but there's so much. I mean, we could spend every day in every state covering something and still not get everything. My goodness. There's just so many things, but the Battle of Little Bighorn, the Custer's Last Stand, it seems that somebody, calls it Custer's Last Stand or the Battle of Little Bighorn. And that happened the 25th and 26th of June, 1876. And that was a big, big devastation on both sides for both the U.S. Soldiers and for Native Americans. And there were some big name players in that. And it was over the discovery of gold, really.
Was gold kind of the catalyst out there? More people?
This was tension. There was a lot of tension rising over the discovery of gold, and the tribes had missed a federal deadline to move to reservations, and Custer was he was unaware of the number of natives that were fighting under the command of Sitting Bull at the time, and so it really just turned into a big disaster. And Custer's last stand, the 7th Cavalry, and it was it was against a band of Lakota Sioux, and
right. Oh, I was just going to say, if I'm remembering right, because it's been a while since I've kind of read over it, but I think Custer was out there actually mapping out the area, kind of looking for minerals, even kind of even maybe future military posts. He was out there just kind of as orders. Like I think the 7th Regiment Cavalry, as part of that, as orders to kind of just see the lay of the land. Originally, to go out there, that caused a lot of the cultural tension.
Truly, it was the discovery of the Black Hills gold and the fact that the tribes had missed their deadline to make it to reservations.
The deadline.
I mean,
right.
Yep. If we really want to cut it to the nitty-gritty, there were promises that were made, and there were threats that were made, and Custer was and big battle came to a head, and I think it was one of the most decisive Native American victories and like the worst U.S. Army defeats that ever could have happened. And it was wild, and it was bloody, and it was awful. And
yeah.
And it the results of that was you have to think there were it was only a 2-day battle. It wasn't like it went on for days and days and days, but the casualties were enormous. All of 1,000 Native Americans died in those 2 days. And I know they've done some archaeological digs, and I know I'm getting some comments here. Like Bev said, there's the gold in the Black Hills that the government wanted, but was already given to the Native Americans. There's I know Custer was originally buried there, and then he was reinterred at West Point Cemetery, where he actually had graduated from West Point.
Right.
And so, yeah, this was not a fun point in history.
No, I mean, we kind of saw
it's definitely a point in history.
Absolutely. It's a part of not just Montana history, but our American history that I think as kids we read about. I think everybody can tell you about the battle of Little Bighorn for sure. To know the details of it goes a bit deeper, as you say, on the culture, the difference, the promises not kept, just the westward expansion. Everything is just a part of our American history, and and it's not all pretty. It really isn't all pretty,
right.
And I think after that there was even Chief Joseph. I think they had a little victory after this battle themselves. I think him and his Nez Perce tribe had a minor victory as well before the U.S. military just was too kind of powerful in the end for them to kind of continue to stand their ground.
Right. This, yeah. Yeah, I know I definitely want to get out there and pay my respects. I know they made the grounds where the 7th Cavalry is buried a national cemetery, and it's protected. And so
That's awesome.
I would like to get out there. I think we could do some really fun video series out there. Bev says she'd like to come out too. So yeah,
well,
I think we could get out there and do
I think we can do that.
Do some fun stuff. And history is, it is what it is, and we learn from history, and that's why we're doing this, because it's amazing regardless of what it is. It needs to be told.
Yeah, I mean, all of history we don't always agree with. We're all so unique and different. Our backgrounds, our history, personal histories are different ourselves, and we have different viewpoints. But history is history, and you always do hear that you have to learn from history, and you have to remember history. And I think that's the exciting thing about what Family Tree Nuts does, and Russ's vision on that is that so much of history is getting lost. It's not getting told, and it needs to be remembered. It needs to be remembered factually, and that would be, right. I think, that would be an amazing video series for us to be able to get out there and do that.
Right. And I'm telling you, Montana is absolutely gorgeous. It's a great place to go. I know we haven't covered, we could go on and on for hours about Montana if we wanted to. And I think we've covered so much right now of, Montana's history and whatnot, and just history in general. And one question that we didn't cover are like, what are the fun things to do there? And so I thought maybe we'll wrap it up with the fun things to do.
Awesome.
So Montana is full of national parks. Like that is, it's absolutely full of amazing parks. Glacier Glacier National Park is an amazing place to go visit. I've been there, and but the sites are just, you can't even, it's not something that you can just tell somebody. It's something that you need to experience. And the vast amount of lakes and rivers and mountains and skiing and you name it, you can do it in Montana. So horseback riding, and you can experience ranching, and the tourism is like number 4. They're really utilizing all the places that they have and the things that they can do there. I'll have to tell you, one of my favorite things there is the speed limit,
which is
high.
High.
Higher than ours, and I like that. Just so you know.
Okay, well,
this is a little higher than ours, and you can get places faster, and it's great and grand.
Okay, well, that puts a little pro in my box too, because I might have a little bit of a lead foot myself. So I like to get places fast.
There's less traffic. Montanans, that's what they call themselves. Good people in Montana. Just
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the more we talk about all of these states, and that we really have started on the coast that I have never been to. Dakota, I've been to Wyoming, you know, we're getting close. We're edging over to where I've been, but now I'm itching for travels. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're going to have to get out here. Yeah, you're definitely going to have to get out here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. Well, I could go on and on and on about Montana. As you can tell, one of those places that I love. So, and I intend to get back out there very soon. So Sue, I'm so glad that you could join me. I have one last little thing I'm going to tell you about Montana. It has the largest grizzly bear population.
Wow. Now we have some grizzly bears around here, but I imagine not as many as Montana. I'm sure. Cool. Pretty cautious.
And they are also pretty big on huckleberries.
Oh, the grizzly bears love huckleberries. Yeah.
Right. And remember Idaho and the huckleberry shake thing and huckleberry pies? Montana has that going too.
Yes. Montana has that too. Okay.
Syrup and huckleberry everything. Yes. Yes. So
good deal. Good deal.
Having said that, next week we will be in Nevada.
Awesome.
Literally.
Okay. I have not been to Nevada.
So we're coming. We're bringing Nevada to you. Yes, we will.
Awesome.
I will be in Nevada, and I'm pretty sure you're joining me. So.
Oh, okay.
If you want. Okay.
Absolutely. I've never been in Nevada. This will be the next best thing. You can take me with you. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Sounds good. Nevada it is. So next week, Nevada.
I'm excited. That sounds good. Well, before we check off, I always want to, I was going to say anyway that for you all to join Russ and Jameson tomorrow night too, because they're doing their Thursday night. I think they're speaking about the Scots Irish, and that would be me. I'm in that category. I have Scots Irish.
Me too.
Ancestry. Awesome.
Yes.
So we're going to and happy St. Patty's Day. Yeah.
Yes, happy St. Patty's Day. And again, we're still looking. If any guests want to join us and talk about your state, come join me. I'm curious.
Yeah,
I want to know about your state.
I thoroughly enjoyed last week with Lori in California. That was awesome. So
that was so much fun. Lori was so fun. I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed
did a great
watching
job.
it. I thought, she did. So we need a few more out there that are brave, willing souls like she was to step up and talk about their state.
Absolutely. And I'm willing. I don't bite. I'm a lot of fun, I think.
She is. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you are too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, so before we go, we got Nevada next week, and Sue, I'll let you take us out of here.
All right. As always, remember, family tree nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
Thanks, guys.
So you've built your family tree and made a ton of amazing discoveries. What a fulfilling experience it is to breathe life back into them. But what are you going to do with all the information that you found? Are you going to let it sit on some computer or some website? Maybe hand off stacks of papers and binders that you have to some relative that may be interested, but maybe not be able to make heads or tails of the research that you've done. Let us help honor your ancestors in video. At Family Tree Nuts, we make videos with you at the location of relevance to your ancestors, such as their gravesite, their homes, land, or other location pertaining to them. You tell their story in your words, documenting them forever. The professionally produced videos are published on our YouTube page where they are easily shared with your family members. The videos are also searchable and will be able to be seen for centuries by your descendants. Imagine being able to see a video of one of your ancestors. Well, your descendants are going to be able to do just that. And we have tons of examples that we can share with you. These videos are fun to make, and we can make many of them in just a single day. Don't let those amazing discoveries that you found slip back away into the darkness. Let us help you honor them by, in a sense, keeping them alive forever. Contact us for details.